TIFU by tripping balls on my honeymoon, only to realize the cabin we rented had a fatal flaw. So, let's go back to 2019 when things were normal and I luckily got to have the wedding of my dreams. Backyard wedding with 45 people and a buffet from our favorite Indian restaurant. Absolute fire. Best day of our lives. My husband and I decided that on our honeymoon, we wanted to rent a gorgeous cabin on a river with big panoramic windows and woods to seclude us. We also decided we wanted to get super high on LSD and mushrooms and fuck like rabbits all over the cabin in a psychedelic dream state. After all, we were celebrating our love. And besides, my husband had done psychedelics for over a decade and I had been doing them for at least a year. We knew what we were doing. We got to the cabin and it was just as beautiful as in the pictures. It was full of dozens of Buddha statues, teddy bears, blankets. Everything was so cozy. We had some food and settled in. We noticed that, across the river, there was a road, and if someone pulled over, we could probably have a conversation in sign language. But there were at least some trees in the way. We also noticed that riverboat tours would occasionally pass by just a few yards away from the back porch. Also, there were other cabins a stone's throw away. Less secluded than we thought. But whatever. It was still really beautiful. When evening came, we dosed ourselves up with the psychedelic drugs, LSD and cubensis mushrooms. We sat on the back porch and watched the sunset in each other's arms, and I realized I wasn't quite high enough and my husband started getting a little nervous being outside, so we went inside and, blinded by the excitement of our legally bound love, did the number one thing you should never do on a psychedelic: redose while you were already high. While we waited for that to kick in, we started feeling horny and looked for a place to fuck in the house. Kitchen floor maybe? Maybe not. There were huge panoramic windows pointing out of the living room and dining nook, and you could be seen from all positions in the main living area. And there were no curtains. No problem. Let's go to the bedroom. Above the bed there was a big 3x10 window looking out at the other cabins. And there were no curtains. Let's try the other bedroom? Again. A huge panoramic window pointing to the river covered in 3 dream catchers. And there were no curtains. Fuck. Let's try the bathroom? Above every toilet was a large window. And there were no curtains. Meanwhile, my husband had been affected by the acid way more than he wanted to. So when I asked him what everything was looking like and how strong his visuals were, he said, "I really can't describe what's going on or differentiate the edges of objects." Honey. God damn it, I thought. That's how high I wanted to be. I was barely having visuals, but I was too fucked up to think clearly or drive. And he was too fucked up to protect us or even speak to someone at the door if someone came knocking. It was then that we started getting paranoid. There were large ceiling vents throughout the place. There were dozens of statues and teddy bears. There was not a single window covering in the cabin. It was late in the night and we were tripping our dicks off on psychedelics, and there was nowhere in the cabin you could go save for a coat closet where you could not be seen from outside. Were there cameras in here watching us, sending a live stream of us fucking to some dark web voyeur site in Russia? Were there cameras in the vents? In the statues? In the bears? Did we miss dog whistles in the listing that this cabin was meant for people with an exhibitionist kink? As we discussed all these possibilities, my husband stated that my hair and the chair I sat in had melded together and I just looked like a face protruding from a chair to him. Meanwhile, I was having no visuals and no coherent thoughts. That's when we got to work. I taped garbage bags over all the windows so we could piss and sleep in peace. We hung some of the abundant blankets over the huge panoramic windows and pinned them in place. It was then that we decided in our drugged-out state that we needed to leave this cabin first thing in the morning. But since we had been so thoroughly creeped out, my husband would stay awake and I could sleep a few hours and drive us somewhere, anywhere else in the morning. The problem here is that psychedelics make it hard to sleep. So I didn't manage to sleep until about 5 a.m. He woke me at noon. We documented the freaky lack of curtains issue and that we had left the place as clean as we found it. We tried going somewhere else, but our honeymoon just didn't work out, so we headed home and had a staycation with our cat. Then COVID hit, so we haven't had a vacation together since that failed honeymoon, and we could really use one. The moral of the story: even if every space meant for human occupation in your entire life has had curtains, don't assume your honeymoon cabin will. Also, never redose. Also, don't do psychedelics in unfamiliar places without a sober trip sitter. TL. Doctor. Decided to trip balls in our secluded honeymoon cabin, only to realize while already high that there were no curtains anywhere and no private areas in the cabin. So we stayed up all night paranoid and creeped out, and our honeymoon was sorta wrecked. Then COVID hit and we haven't been on vacation since. Hilarious story. Thanks for sharing. You sound like an amazing couple who are going to have a fun ride together. This is a memory that will last a lifetime. Thanks for sharing it. As someone who loves sex on psychedelics, I can absolutely imagine this scenario. Sorry for your honeymoon, but thanks for sharing. I've never had psychedelics, so I was fully expecting you to wake up the next day to find all the windows were normal size and had curtains. Tears of joy. I can't believe they would have no curtains. I'd have hated it. Sorry you haven't had a proper honeymoon yet, but hopefully you can start to plan one soon. Sex and acid don't mix well. In my experience anyway. I was having a great time skinny dipping in the pool with my crush. Then in the hot tub. Then we made our way to the bedroom. Everything was going great. The sensations were amazing. And then she got on top. And while she was riding me, her entire body was flashing blue and yellow like a strobe light. I stopped things. Explained I needed a minute. And went to the bathroom to get myself together. But my dick had shriveled up to the smallest it could possibly be. Like it was trying to retract into my body. It was a cold, lifeless acorn worm. I stayed in there beating my meat until I was sweating. Because I was incredibly horny and she was too. But my body was literally refusing to go back out there to that electric strobing creature. And because I was tripping and had no concept of time, I was in there for almost 40 minutes. So by the time I made me way back into the room, the mood was dead. Thankfully I didn't need to do much explaining because she had just been tripping balls in bed. Lol. Haha, I can see you taping stuff to the windows. Nothing like being high and getting off. It is hard to start sometimes, but once you're in the zone it's awesome sauce. You are so right, never ever double dip. Haha, great story. The term, fatal flaw, always gets me. You know, if you turn the lights off, no one outside can see you at night? This was hilarious. A memory you will never forget for sure.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.